When the workday's done and the lights are low, there's a place to go where the tech minds flow like the truths you hear with a beer or two from a mate who's been there, who's guiding you through insights from the best, the Incentric crew. They got stories, smarts, and something new. Is tech talk the way real friends do? Welcome to the Late Night Brew.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Late Night Brew, where we talk the brews first, then we get around to what we're supposed to. Joining me on the next episode of this journey on Google to Microsoft, if I could order words properly, tenant migrations, is Josh. Welcome back, buddy.
Hello again.
All right, sir. You are well acquainted with the process. What brew are you having with me today?
I've got a local one here from
Love
Baby
it.
Cat Brewery. It's called Catnip Bender.
Very nice.
There we go.
I like it.
It's pretty
I like
good.
the artwork.
Yeah.
I got myself actually a not so local, a stout. So figured it's that time of year. May as well have one or two.
Yeah.
It's better when it's colder, but I live in the desert,
Yeah.
so I don't get that luxury. All right, diving into with the Google to Microsoft, of course, there is very limited built-in tooling, so there is a plethora of third-party options available for organizations to take advantage of. When it comes to tooling, what do organizations need to look for? What are your options? What can you come to expect?
Yeah, there are a lot of tools out there. All of them will migrate the basics: email, OneDrive, or Drive, right? SharePoint. It's those weird other things that Google has, like Vault, for example, that not every tool may migrate, and some may do better than others. So I think looking at exactly what you want to migrate before picking a tool is probably the right move, right? And then trying to figure out, okay, what tool actually does what I want it to do, and then go from there. That's usually what we do.
Yeah, got to know what you need to do before you know what's the right tool for the job. Oh man.
Yes.
That's a shoo-in of a saying if there ever was one. In terms of setup, what does that look like?
Setup of
The tools
of
getting the tool to talk to the tenants and
yeah, it obviously requires administrative access to the tenant on both sides. Super admin on Google and usually some sort of administrative rights in 365. And usually all connects in through APIs. So it's just, a couple button clicks, logins, and then usually it just connects right up. Some are easier than others, but I think now that everything's all API based, it makes it a little easier to actually make those connections.
Yeah. Gone are the days of manually building projects in Google.
Adding each API, yeah, it's gotten a lot better.
Yeah, and that's really where once everything's configured and it's talking, that's really when all of that work we were talking about in the prior episode with the mapping, that's where you are going to actually use it, and it's where the rubber meets the road. Man, I'm just full of idioms today. Jeez. In terms of, okay, this one's going there. Given that, we're talking about the cloud existences for organization, what testing, because obviously until domains and MX records and everything are switched over, there's limited testing. What testing can be done ahead of time to make sure that things are looking to be where they're supposed to be?
Yeah, all tools are copies, so none of them are actually changing source data. So you could always log in to the 365 side and kind of validate, check things out. Depending on the type of migration, if this is like a new tenant, chances are no one's using it yet. You could probably pre-stage your domain well in advance, and have people log in and test there. If it's an existing tenant, you may not want to validate the domain yet because it'll probably mess up coexistence between the two. But you could still have people log in and kind of validate and things like that. just make sure things are looking the way they are. And I think especially from going from Google, we talked last time about like the labels, how they can convert, and there's different options. It's good to like test that out first. Maybe migrate things to like a dummy SharePoint site or a dummy mailbox and say, hey, this is what it looks like. Do you like it? Otherwise, we have another option. And a lot of that's tweaking settings in the migration tools. They all have so many settings you can tweak. So I think testing is definitely a big part of Google migration, just to make sure that things are working the way as intended.
Yeah. I think with next one we'll really talk about the migration and the cutover, so I don't want to bite too much into that one. However, given probably there's a lot of data, right? What kind of time frames from setup testing, they like it, it's happy, let's go ahead and start doing the bulk. What are some of, obviously it's impossible, but finger in the wind, right? What are some of those time frames that when they're planning this out, so they're not coming and saying, okay, let's get this done in a month when, they have an excessive amount of data?
Yeah. There was always a number thrown around, like a gig an hour per item. That's old. I don't know if that's even accurate anymore. Things move pretty quick, but it really depends on the data size, obviously. Throttling is an issue on both sides. Microsoft has a way to lift it for email only, not for SharePoint or OneDrive. And then Google throttling, you're just kind of stuck with. And they're a big culprit of throttling data leaving because they don't want you to leave. So that happens a lot. So yeah, I usually like to give several weeks, depending on the data size, but even a small migration, at least a week or at least one weekend, because that's usually when throttling is the least like off hours. So yeah, but it really depends.
Yeah, well, and it's that old, do you have 1,000,000 1 kilobyte or 1 megabyte?
Right.
That's probably more relevant nowadays. 1 megabyte files, or do you have, a handful of, okay, these are all somehow, let's just call it magical terabytes,
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. Yeah, right. It's the amount of items more than the amount of data. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so there you go. If you need good excuses to crack down on your users to clean up their mail, that is a good one.
Yep.
All right. So we'll save the best stuff for last. Next episode, we'll be getting into the actual migration, the cutover, the end state. Obviously we've been talking a lot about data, so we can touch on some other parts that are likely going to be happening at the same time, like what to do with workstations. So until then, if you want more information, you need any help, you just want to bounce ideas, get better information about more in depth what the heck we're talking about, our contact info is below. Feel free to reach out. Until next time, thank you, Jess. Cheers, sir.
Thank you. Cheers.